Raise your hand and give yourself a big pat on the back if you have made it into the 31st of 32 2023 NFL team previews here on bet.nola.com, powered by the Dattitude Podcast. And you know that my name is Jim Derry without looking at your screen. Good for you. One more to go after today. We got the Carolina Panthers today, and if you have watched our previous NFC South previews, you know that I think the Panthers are going to be pretty good because they have a lot of changes. I think good changes. They also have fairly easy schedule, really easy schedule. And we're going to get to all of that and more. If you can just hold on through this intro, you know you like it anyway. You've been watching them for a month and a half now. Well, you've made it. There's only one more intro to go. It'll be Friday. It'll be the New Orleans Saints. But today, the Carolina Panthers, usually when we start off this segment, we talk about what happened the previous season and what that leads into this year. Well, really, there isn't a whole lot from last year that's going to matter into this year except one big fact. And that fact is the fact that they fired Matt Rule after 4 weeks and named Steve Wilks, their defensive coordinator, as interim head coach. And he stayed there for all 12 weeks, 6-6, did a really good job. A lot of people thought he was going to get the head coaching job permanently. But no. Panthers decided they're going to bring in an offensive-minded coach, and they did that with Frank Reich, who also, by the way, has ties to the Carolina area. Will it work out? Will it be the right decision? Well, we'll find out. Because Steve Wilks is now the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, and Frank Reich, we're going to get a gauge on him very soon because along with all the changes that the Panthers made in the offseason, they traded their top receiver, DJ Moore, to the Chicago Bears, along with a bunch of picks, by the way, for the number one pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, which is Bryce Young, as you all know by now. How good is Bryce Young going to be? Well, if you're asking me my opinion, and if you're listening to this, you obviously are, I think Bryce Young is going to be the top quarterback prospect out of any draft in quite a while. And that's saying something considering how many good quarterbacks that we've seen come out of the draft over the past, 6-7 years. Now, I'm not going to go say he's going to be better than Patrick Mahomes, but I think he has the potential. He's a different kind of quarterback, completely different than Patrick Mahomes. But I really think that this is a pick for the Panthers, unfortunately for other teams in the NFC South, that could be giving to this franchise for the next 15 or so years. That's how good I think he is. Does he have the talent to go around? Well, a lot of the skill players that this team had last year are gone now. We talked about DJ Moore. Also gone, and he was gone in the middle of last year. They traded Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers. He's gone. Dante Foreman went to the Chicago Bears, 203 carries, 914 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's gone for this team that had trouble doing a lot on offense. You look at 29th overall, although part of the reason why they were good running the football was because of Dante Foreman. Will that affect this year's team? Well, they brought in Miles Sanders from the Philadelphia Eagles, and Miles Sanders did okay for the Eagles in helping lead them to the Super Bowl. He had over 1,000 rushing yards, his first 1,000-yard season. Will he be able to do that again in Carolina? Well, they have an okay offensive line. It's somewhere in the middle of the pack when you look at the rankings. You know, Miles Sanders could even fit this team better than Dante Foreman did. It's a completely different team. It's revamped. They still have Chuba Hubbard, one of the great backups. I think a fantastic backup, and he has stayed with the Panthers, so they don't have to worry about change there. What about the wide receiving end of it? We already told you DJ Moore is gone. Well, what did they do? You got Adam Thielen. Gave him a 3-year contract for $25 million. 3 years, $25 million. Is that too much for a guy that's starting to get to the top of that hill? Maybe starting his way down. I don't know. We're going to find out because he's already had some injuries in preseason. They also signed tight end Hayden Hurst from the Cincinnati Bengals. He was in the Super Bowl a couple years ago playing against the Los Angeles Rams, catching passes from Joe Burrow. Hayden Hurst will be a big addition. So, to me, this wide receiving core is clearly better than it was because also, if you go along with that, they brought in, with the second with their second pick of the draft, the 39th overall, wide receiver Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss. And look, I think Mingo is going to be a great NFL receiver. If you look at the top 4 wide receivers on this draft, because we haven't even talked about DJ Chark, comes over as a free agent. DJ Chark has been a solid receiver in this league. And another LSU receiver to go with Chark, Terrace Marshall, has stayed with the Panthers. So if you look at the top 4 receivers, not counting tight end Hayden Hurst, I think they have a solid foundation for Bryce Young, and I think they can get going right away. I clearly think that this 29th passer rating, even if it only goes up to like number 21 or 22, I think it could be significantly better. If the running game stays anywhere near 10th, you're talking about an offense that is immediately upgraded. Now, the defense is interesting, and they have made some changes as well. You're talking about bringing over Shai Tuttle from the New Orleans Saints, giving him a 3-year, $19.5 million deal. And then also another former Saint, but he comes from Cincinnati, safety Von Bell, 3 years, $22.5 million. Look, this defense was second ranked in the league just 2 years ago. Last year, they added a 2 on the top front of that number, 22nd. But it was because they couldn't stop the pass. Well, we always look at the top right portion when we get to the schedule. 27th toughest, which means, let me count them, 32, 31, 30, 29, 28. Yep. 6th easiest schedule in the NFL. But yet it's still the second toughest in the division. Well, it should be, because they were in second place in the division at 7-10. Starts off with Atlanta. You like that it's 2 division games, because I think we're going to find out early on how good is this team. Are they going to go to Atlanta? They're an underdog in week 1. Are they going to be able to go to Atlanta and surprise some people? Then they get home, have their home opener, Bryce Young's first game at home against the New Orleans Saints on a Monday night before traveling to Seattle, which basically is a short week, and you got to go to the West Coast. So that's not easy. And then home from Minnesota and at Detroit and at Miami. Those first 6 games, to me, that is the scariest part of this schedule. If they can get past this, if they can get out of here like 2-4, or maybe even 3-3, I think that will tell us a whole lot of whether the Panthers will be legitimate contenders or not, because then you get your bye week, and then you got some real winnable games. They should be favored at home against Houston, unless they're 0-6, or maybe even 1-5. Then they might not be. But you would think they would be favored against Houston, favored against Indianapolis. It'll be pretty close to even on a short week at Chicago. Bryce Young against Justin Fields. That'll be fun. Then home for Dallas. Obviously, they'll be underdogs there, and at Tennessee. And go to the second third of the season, and you're talking about at Tampa Bay, at New Orleans. They play 3 of their final 4 games at home. Atlanta, Green Bay, at Jacksonville, Tampa Bay. You can't tell me all those games are winnable. I'm not saying they're going to win those games, but they're all winnable. And with this new offense, I think the defense is going to significantly improve. And again, if you watch my NFC South predictions the last 2 days, you know I think that the Panthers are either going to be first in the division or second in the division. But I do think, I'm not going to tell you whether I think they're first. I will give you a predicted record, and I'm going to give you major value. In fact, one of the top 5 values of this entire preview season is right here. That means we're ready for our penultimate. I love that word. Haven't been able to use it. Our penultimate. Drum roll, please. 10-7. I think this Panthers team is going to be able to navigate. I love using that word. Navigate through that first 6 games. Get to that bye week. Get them, even if they're 2-4. I love the way the back 2/3 of the schedule sets up for this team, especially the end of the schedule when they play 3 of those 4 games at home. I think they're only going to get better as the season goes along. Plus 500 to win the NFC South. You see the question marks there. I'm not ready to tell you whether I'm predicting them to win the NFC South or not. 10-7, is that going to be good enough to win the NFC South? We'll find out tomorrow when I do the Saints. But I think no matter what I pick tomorrow, plus 500 to win this division is a major value on this team. I clearly think this is the second best team in the division. And with that, the over 7.5 wins at plus 135, both of these are fantastic values. You know how I always say I'm not running to the window? Well, if I could run to the window to bet these 2 things, I would. But I have a phone. I don't need to run to the window anymore. Betting both of these for sure. Great values. Again, tomorrow we'll finish off our previews with the NFC South, a little drama. Am I going to pick the Panthers? Am I going to pick the Saints? And thank you for joining us for 6 weeks. Why would you miss tomorrow? Got to come back.